You won't believe what's about to happen. An anonymous phone call in the middle of the night made Jack immediately call the police and personally lead the force to surround the old house where Tien's ex-mother-in-law lives. What's hidden behind that door? And why did that woman panic when she saw Jack appear? This story will make you shudder because the truth is beyond imagination. Everyone, look closely. This is Mrs. Tien's ex-mother-in-law. Her eyes are as sharp as razor blades. Her mouth is curved just enough to look down on people. Just looking at her posture, you can tell, arrogant, haughty, as if the world owed her a thank you. She not only spoke, but also pointed at other people's faces. Pointing as if giving orders. As if everyone was inferior to her. Every sentence had a sarcastic implication. Her words were carefully chosen to hurt others while still appearing moral. And Jack? He was so angry that he clenched his fists. He didn't expect that after all these years, she was still brazen, still unchanged. Have you said enough? Jack's voice rang out, emphasizing each word. The air seemed to freeze. Mrs. turned to Jack, still with that arrogant gaze. But this time, there was something slightly wavering in her eyes. Because she knew, the days of hiding, fabricating and pushing Tien into the abyss, were over. And Jack was here, to expose it all. She was speaking loudly in front of Jack, her hands waving, her mouth constantly repeating innocuous sentences to cover up. But her eyes could not be hidden. It flashed with a real worry. When she saw Jack walking from afar, holding a file in his hand, his face cold as money. Why did he suddenly come back to ask about Tien's background? This guy, has he had anything to do with her for a long time? I've hidden everything. Could it be that anyone said anything? Mrs. tried to stay calm, but her heart felt like ants were crawling. Because she knew, once Jack asked about Tien's roots, then what she had hidden for decades might soon burst out. The small house nestled behind the bamboo grove at the end of the village. Seemingly as ordinary as any other house, but tonight became the center of an incident that shook the whole area. Jack, with a tense face and bloodshot eyes from lack of sleep, stood next to the police team, the flashlight shining directly on the wooden door that had rotted over the years. They did not come here because of a robbery, nor because of a misunderstanding, but because of a terrible secret that Jack had just discovered a few hours ago. It all started with an old piece of paper mixed in with the construction documents that Jack was assigned to check. It was a copy of the birth certificate. But the strange thing was that the mother's name was not Tien, but Mrs. her ex-mother-in-law. The paper also came with a handwritten, discolored letter, clearly stating, "If one day you read this, the truth cannot be hidden any longer." Jack could not believe his eyes. He immediately called Tien, but the phone just rang and then hung up. At the same time, an anonymous call rang out. "If you want to save her, go to Mrs. Thai's house. Now, before it's too late." Jack's intuition told him something was wrong, so he immediately called the police. The whole team rushed in at night, the sound of car horns tearing through the thick fog of the countryside. When the wooden door opened, the scene inside made everyone shiver. On the wall were torn family photos. A wooden box was placed in the middle of the altar. Inside were a series of fake identity papers, and a photo of Tien as a child, pierced with an iron pin. Jack stood there, stunned. Questions rushed through his mind. Why did Mrs. hide the truth? Why did she stage such a painful marriage drama? And who called to warn him? The answer was in the room at the end of the hallway. Where the flashlight had just shone, the door shook slightly, as if someone was inside. Jack clenched his fists, his heart pounding in his chest. He signaled a policeman to open the wooden door that was shaking slightly, as if someone inside was trying to push it open but didn't have the strength. The door swung open, and a musty, pungent smell immediately wafted out, mixed with the smell of dried blood and dust. The room was dark, with only a flashlight illuminating it. A figure was trembling in the corner, a girl with her hands tied and her mouth gagged. Her face pale, her eyes looking at Jack in panic as if asking for help. It wasn't Tien. This girl looked exactly like her, like a copy a few years younger. Jack was stunned. The policeman beside him also took a step back in surprise. A carefully bound file was placed on the rotten table in the corner. It read, "Alternative plan, emergency, if tien resists." Jack flipped through the file. Inside were a series of terrifying documents, certificates from an underground medical laboratory, genetic testing results, photos of newborns, and an adoption record from a center that had been dissolved nearly 20 years ago. A recording on an old cassette player was played. Mrs. Thai's voice rang out weakly but coldly. "I can't let him ruin everything. He's not my child, but he carries the blood of the woman who killed my sister. If one day he learns the truth, he will leave Tien. I won't allow it. There must be a replacement, someone more obedient, easier to control. I've prepared." Jack crouched down, feeling like the whole world was spinning. It turned out that Mrs. Thuy had kidnapped another child similar to Tien to replace, in case Tien left or rebelled, and had even planned to eliminate her daughter. At the district police headquarters, the interrogation room was lit all night. Mrs. Thuy sat quietly, her wrinkled face no longer fierce and cold as before. She no longer looked straight at anyone, only bowed her head, her hands clasped together and trembling. On the opposite side, an investigator flipped through the files, placing on the table photos, documents, and copies of the girl's testimony held in the small room. Jack stood behind the one-way glass, clenching his hands into fists. His eyes did not leave Mrs. Dung's every small movement. He did not understand why a mother could harbor such hatred, and turn love into such insane possession. The investigator began. "Mrs. Thuy, we have enough evidence of your kidnapping and illegal detention, forging documents, and even involvement in a conspiracy to replace identities. Do you have anything to say?" Mrs. Thuy did not answer immediately. After a long while, she spoke, her voice low. "I didn't intend to go that far. But you don't understand. I just want my family to be at peace. I've lost too much." "You mean losing your sister?" the investigator asked bluntly. "Yes. It was Tien's mother who seduced my sister's fiancé. She made my sister hang herself. From then on, I swore I would never let her child be happy in my house." "So you prevented the marriage between Tien and your son?" "I didn't just prevent it. I destroyed it." Mrs. Thuy raised her head, her eyes now wild. "I arranged for her to be despised, to be hated. I made her think she wasn't worthy of love. But she still endured. She still loved. And when you couldn't control it anymore, you prepared a replacement?" Mrs. Thuy was silent. A tear ran down her cheek. Not out of regret, but out of bitterness. "I don't even remember when I started hating her. I just knew, if I let her live as her true self, I would lose everything. Blank, underscore, blank." The lights in the interrogation room dimmed. Jack turned away, his heart empty. The dark plot had finally collapsed. But he didn't feel happy. He only felt regretful, because there were people who, instead of healing their past wounds, chose to drag others down with them. Jack thought that this was what happened in the past, and that the life of a cultivator had suffered many misfortunes, and now that she had left that house, why wouldn't she let her go? Now where could he find her?
Bài thơ quê hương trong tim tôi. Quê hương là lũy tre xanh, là con đường nhỏ loanh quanh cuối làng, là mùi rơm rạ dịu dàng, là câu ca mẹ ru sang tháng ngày. Quê hương là tiếng gà trưa, là vành nón mẹ, là mùa gạt thơm, là trưa hè gió thổi rơm, là bờ ao mát, là con đò đưa, là tiếng cười trẻ mộc đồng, chân trần đuổi bướm răng đồng chưa hanh, là dàn bầu, là dàn mướt xanh, là chùm khế ngọt, là cành cau non. Dẫu đi đến bốn bể xa xăm, trong tim vẫn nhớ hương trầm quê hương. Một đời dẫu lắm gió mưa, về quê mẹ thấy lòng vừa an nhiên. Quê hương hai tiếng thân quen, cõi trong đáy mắt đằng trên môi cười. Quê hương chẳng thể nói vơi, là nơi để nhớ, là nơi để về.